Plumber Earl Dempsey has a problem. He's never met a car that didn't need a big block. Mike has the story behind this trifecta of power as well as that of one man's obsession with British automobiles. What's in the Garage is next. It's time for a journey around America in search of the hidden gems, rare finds, and unbelievable collections in the garages of the country's auto enthusiasts. Each week, Mike Phillips will lead us through the amazing, fascinating, and entertaining backstories that make up What's in the Garage, presented by AutoGeek.net. Today, Mike is visiting Jupiter, Florida.
Welcome back to another edition of Auto Geek's What's in the Garage here in beautiful Palm City, Florida. I'm your host, Mike Phillips, and today I'm here to meet Earl the plumber and check out some of his cars. You must be Earl.
Yes, sir, I am. How you doing, Mike?
Good. Mike Phillips, nice to
Glad
meet
to
you.
see you.
Well, I got to tell you, when I pulled up, I could tell right away you're a fan of the color red. You got a red shirt on, you got 3 red hot rods in here.
Red Car Club.
Hey, can you tell us a little bit about them? Let's start with this one right here. This looks like an El Camino.
That's what it is. We've got a nice El Camino there that just joined the fleet.
Oh, that's all right. Now, over here, I'm looking at it. It's got a SS454. Is this a big block version?
It's a big block, but it's not a 454. It's a
Oh.
512 roller motor, pushing 750 horsepower.
Oh, so you like to go fast.
I like to throttle.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people can't really tell if these are a car or a truck. What are your thoughts on that?
The cab's like a car, but you can throw a 2x4 in the back like a truck.
There you go. They make good boat pullers, don't they?
Yes, they sure do.
Can we pop the hood and take a look at the motor?
Sure can.
So you're saying this is a 512 cubic inch big block Chevy?
Yes.
Well, of course, you know I'm a big fan of the big block Chevy.
Yeah, we got a couple big blocks.
Wow. I love how they just completely fill up the engine compartment.
They do that.
Oh, yeah. Now, can you tell me, how did you come about getting this car?
Well, I was sitting in my chair resting one night, shopping on the internet,
Yeah?
and I pushed red El Camino. And this one came up, and I pushed the buy it now button
You're up on eBay.
on eBay.
You got to learn your lesson. Don't ever go on eBay. You'll end up with something like this in your garage.
Well, I understand that totally, but that's what I just had a hankering for a red El Camino, and this one came up, and it is one sweetheart.
Wow. Well, it sure does look nice. I like how it has the vinyl top. It also has the vinyl tonneau cover, too. Keep everything in the back dry.
Keeps it dry, and the car is very good shape. You know, light amount of, couple little rust spots on it, but we'll get those taken care of.
Okay. So was it in this nice condition when you first got it?
This pretty much is the way it looked. You know, I've had a good cleaning on it, took the tent off the windows, and really haven't had time to put my special touches that I like to do to it.
Now, when it came, did it have this engine in it?
Yes, it did.
Okay. I see it's got aluminum heads in there, too.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, that'll lighten it up a little bit and give you a little more power. Do you ever take it out and just stand on it?
Yeah.
For some reason, I knew you were going to say yeah.
Yeah.
I see a GTO over here. Can you tell us about this one?
This is a 65 GTO. I bought it about 7 years ago. I went to the Barrett-Jackson auction, and when I arrived at the auction, I saw this about 200 yards away sitting in the grass. And my friend went with me, and I says, that's going home with me.
Just like
and
that?
He just looked at me and laughed. He says, you're not going to do it. Came up on the block, bid and started. I had the little runner guy, you know, come on me.
Yeah.
I said, just give me the keys. I'm buying it. That's the end of it. And I drove it home that night, and when I got home, my wife says, what's that? I said, that's my new hot rod. She says, you bought a hot rod and didn't call me? And I says, well, I just bought it.
Spur of the moment.
Spur of the moment.
Now, these came with a 389, so I bet it gets up and goes pretty good.
Oh, it gets up and goes a lot better than good.
Well, you got something besides the 389 in there?
Yes, sir, we sure do. We're putting about 600 foot-pounds of torque on the ground with a 462. It was custom built here in Stuart, Florida, by Steve Dietz of Florida Pontiac. And This one takes the blood in your nose and puts it in the back of your head.
Oh, that's a good way to describe it. Well, can you pop the hood and let's take a look at the engine? Wow, this really looks nice, Earl. I love how you've taken the firewall. Now it's a gloss black. It's all cleaned up. It's very sanitized.
Yes, it is. That's one of the marks that I do with my cars.
So that's the plan for the El Camino then?
Yes, sir.
You're going to pull that motor out and get it all cleaned up so it's looking as good as this?
Yes, sir. We're going to take and dress the motor up and make pretty.
Well, tell you what, we're going to go to break, and when we come back, there's one more car over here in the corner we're going to take a look at, so come right back.
What's in the Garage, presented by AutoGeek.net, is being brought to you by Flex Polishers, a true direct drive orbital polisher available at AutoGeek.net. And by ARP, the world leader in fastener technology. And by Diamondite, the ultimate glass and plastic care systems, available at AutoGeek.net.
Welcome back to Auto Geeks What's in the Garage. Now, before we take a look at this next car, I want to just ask Earl a couple things about this awesome garage he's got here. Earl, I noticed, first of all, you got your own hydraulic lift. Obviously, you'd like to do your own work. Is that right?
Yes, I like to play with them and work on them a little bit.
Do all your own maintenance?
I try to in my spare time when I'm not working.
Now, I noticed you got a really nice tile floor here.
Yeah, this is a solid porcelain floor, no stain, no chip.
Yeah.
And it's pitched so I can wash my cars and wax them in air conditioning.
Well, and now I know one thing, being here in Florida, the humidity gets so high, that's got to be a blessing because you can stand here where it's cool. With the pitch or the angle, the water can run out. You won't break a sweat when you wash your car.
That's the way it works.
Oh, that's the dream come true.
That's the way it works. And we got a nice big screen up there.
Oh, I see you got the man cave sign up there.
Yeah, that's the man cave sign.
I love that.
This is my escape from the big house.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the car. What is this?
This is a 1962 Impala SS with air conditioning.
It's got a beautiful black interior on it.
That's a factory interior.
Now, I'm coming up here, I see the emblem here, but now that I know you've got a big block in the El Camino and a big block in the GTO, don't tell me you got a 283 in the Impala.
No, this one's grown a little bit. She came to me with a 502 in her, and it wasn't big enough. So I pulled it out and put a 632 in it.
Oh, you're kidding me.
And it's
632 cubic inches?
cubic inches of motor.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, I want to see the motor. Can you pop the hood?
Yes, sir, we can do that.
That is beautiful. So tell me a little bit about the motor. You say 632 cubic inches. What else is going on down here?
We put it on the dyno after putting it in over at my buddies at Fuller to Pontiac. Helped me put it in. And he did one awesome job of cutting and fitting everything so it went in perfect without any structural damage to the car. And our first testing on a wheel dyno, we're putting out 829 horsepower.
Well, that'll lay down some rubber, huh?
Yes, it sure does. It's a lot of fun.
Well, do you ever take it out here and get it on?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah? You ever been busted?
Yes, I was. One time I picked it up over at Steve's and I was sitting at a red light and I had 3 lanes wide open in front of me and I couldn't stand it. And I nailed it. And then I looked in my rearview mirror and there was a nice Martin County deputy behind me.
A really nice one.
Way behind me.
Yeah.
And he pulled me over after I shut it down and waited for him to catch up with me. And very nice fella. And he says, he says, what was that all about? And I said, well, you know, when you're old and you got a toy, you want to play with it. And I did it. And he said, well, is that red car that sits up there at Florida Pontiac? And I said, yes, sir. He works on it for me. He says, I've been watching that car for months. And he says, I was wondering what was in it. Now I know. But he says, I'm going to have to do something here because you were misbehaving. And he says, what do you think I ought to do to you? And I says, I don't think you ought to give me a ticket because that would hurt my feelings. I says, why don't you just scold me real bad and tell me not to do it anymore? And that's what he did. So.
But I'm sure that you won't ever do that again.
No,
Yeah, right.
Not today.
Well, Earl, I really love this last car. You know, I love the big block Chevy, especially 632 cubic inches. Could you fire it up, maybe take me for a ride?
No problem, hop in.
Promise not to scare me?
I'll try not to.
Okay, well, we're done here at this garage, but we're gonna be right back. We're gonna be checking out another garage, so come on back. Let me get this side. Hi, are you Henry Grady?
Yeah.
My name is Mike Phillips with What's in the Garage.
Hi, Mike. Come on in. Come on in.
Well, being a car guy, I feel like a kid in a candy store. Can we walk through these and maybe just share a little bit about each one?
Be glad to share them with you.
What's this first one?
Well, this is a 53 XK120 drop head coupe. They actually made 3 models of this car. The open 2-seater, which everybody refers to as the Roadster. The fixed head coupe, which is the hardtop version of this, and the drop head coupe, which is this one. To me, this is a much more practical car because it acts as if it's a fixed head coupe, but you can put the top down.
How about this next car?
This is a 64 XKE Series 1 3.8, which to my eye is the prettiest of the E-coupes. And being a coupe, I think it's one of the prettiest cars in the world.
What do we have here? I love the two-tone paint, the silver and the black.
This is an Aston Martin 1957 DB2 Slant 4 Mark II. It's one of the early cars, the DB2, then the 2.4, then the Mark II, and then the Mark III. But this is the Mark II version of it, which has a little more headroom than the earlier car does. And it is a full 2+2 car. Very pleasant to drive.
Okay, what do we have up here?
This is a Riley RMD. This is a 1957 RMD. I'm sorry, that's a 54 RMD. And this is one of the few cars that was built with left-hand drive. It came to the United States. It's an unusual but typical of pre-war styling on British cars. Wonderful little car to drive.
Yeah, I like the suicide doors and this trim piece on the back, like where the B-pillar would be. What do you call that?
Those are Landau bars.
Landau bar.
That's part of the convertible top, so that the hinge portion of the convertible top.
So it's functional plus decorative.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it has a lot of style to it.
Right. Okay,
now this looks like a car I recognize, but there's a couple things that are different about it. What is this?
This is an AC Bristol. This is a 1963 AC Bristol. Which actually is a John Togero design car that started production in '53 and originally was produced with the AC 6-cylinder pushrod engine, and then later they added the Bristol engine, which is what this car has, which is the 100D2 engine, which is 126 horsepower.
Isn't there another car that looks like this that we're all familiar with?
Well, the AC Bristol in '63, they ran out of Bristol engines. Bristol Aircraft stopped producing the engines. And so they built for a short period of time cars with Ford Zephyr engines in them, which are 2.6 liter, and they're called an RS 2.6. The difference in the body in that car and this car is the front end. Under the headlight, you'll see that this car, the design of it has an eyebrow that's very much like a Ferrari Barchetta. But when they made the 2.6, it became a flat nose front. The flat nose front is the car that actually Carroll Shelby used to develop the Cobra.
Oh, okay. You're talking about this body panel design right in here.
That's correct.
So the Cobra is flat, it's gone.
That's correct.
And this is the Ferrari style right there. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's very interesting. Wow, you really know your cars.
Well, I spend a lot of time with them.
Hey, we're going to take a break. Come on back. We're going to check out the rest of Henry's collection.
What's in the Garage, presented by AutoGeek.net, is being brought to you by Wolfgang for long-lasting protection and a crystal shine, available at AutoGeek.net, and by Lincerna, the world's finest polishing materials, available at AutoGeek.net, and by Low Car Performance Products, quality, plain and simple.
Welcome back to Auto Geeks What's in the Garage. Well, Henry, this thing is just immaculate looking. It looks fast just sitting here. What is this?
This is a 1958 Tajiro Jaguar. John Tajiro, who was the designer of the original AC Ace body, which we just talked about, built about 100 cars altogether. He built 4 cars that were Jaguar powered. This one he built in '58, and this one went to Acuria Cossi, which was the Scottish racing team that had taken over for Jaguar when Jaguar officially stopped racing. This car was driven by some very famous drivers. Flockhart, Bueb, Sanderson, and Ennis Ireland drove it quite a bit. But I acquired it in the early 90s as a basket case and have done a total restoration on the car.
It's immaculate, incredible.
One of the very interesting things about this car is that it came with the engine that you see behind it.
Back here?
Yeah, that is a very unusual engine. That's an all-alloy 3-liter Jaguar engine.
I can see the block, everything's aluminum.
Yes, aluminum block, aluminum head. This is a Morgan Series 5 4.4, which has the Ford engine as opposed to the Plus 4, which has the Triumph or Vanguard engine in it. This is beautifully restored 64 series. Very pleasant car to drive. One of the most fun cars that I have to drive.
Well, I tell you, the front end on this with the headlight buckets and the fenders that they swoop on down, this thing's just beautiful.
Yeah, it's a very nice car. I'm very pleased to have it.
What do we got back here?
The first you see is my MG Midget, 1275 Midget.
Okay.
Which is my favorite race car. I still vintage race this car. I run it several times a year. It's a 1275 engine, a little more powerful than a regular 1275. And it's just the most fun race car that I have. This is a 1964 356 SC. The S stands for super, which means that the engine is more powerful than a standard one. And this one is actually 107 horsepower.
This one caught my eye as soon as I walked in. I love the two-tone red and black with the really nice slope-back grille. What is this?
This is a 1953 EMW 327 slant 3.
EMW?
EMW, not BMW. The reason it's an EMW is that prior to World War II, all of BMW cars were produced in a factory in a town named Eisenach, which ended up in East Germany after the partition after World War II. The corporate headquarters were over in Munich, but Munich only produced aircraft engines and motorcycles prior to the war. And they were forbidden to build vehicles after the war as punishment for their war efforts. But over in East Germany, they had the plant, the tools, the parts, and everything. So in '48, they started building cars again. But now from '48 to '51, they called them BMWs, because this was the BMW plant where they were being built. In '51, BMW received permission, BMW corporate that is, received permission to start building vehicles again. And they said to the people over in Eisenach, you can't use the name BMW, we own the corporate name. The people in Eisenach said, okay, we'll just call them EMWs. So what you're seeing is actually a 1939-1940 BMW 327 that was built in 1953-54 in Eisenach, Germany, and it's called an EMW.
It's time for Show Car Garage. Tips on detailing your car to bring out the beauty that will make it show-worthy. Brought to you by AutoGeek.net. We are Car Care.
I have a very special guest with me today, Rick Goldstein from Ragtop Products. Hi, Rick.
Mike, how are you today?
Great. Hey, I got a Corvette here, and I know it's important to take care of the convertible top. Do you got anything for that?
I sure do, Mike. And the first thing for preventive care, and this comes from the manufacturer of your top, is to use the Ragtop Cleaner, which is biodegradable, non-toxic, made exclusively for convertible topping, either fabric or vinyl. So on the Corvette, being that it's fabric, you want to wet the top down really good with cool water.
Okay. Rinse off any loose dirt.
Loose dirt.
Okay.
You can also vacuum the top ahead of time.
Pull all the dirt out of the weave of the fabric.
Yes.
Okay.
Any type of grit and grime.
Well, I know that when you get the water on there, if you got dirt on there, it'll actually cause the dirt to kind of seep into the fabric. So to vacuum it off first just gets it out of the way.
Gets it out of the
Then
way.
wash it.
Then when it's thoroughly dry, Then you want to use the ragtop fabric protectant
Okay.
to properly seal the top per manufacturer's recommendations.
Okay. I have some brushes here, and it's important when you brush these, just when you go back to the cleaning step, you don't want to use a real coarse brush because that could cause this to get frayed and fuzzy. So you want to use something really soft like these boar's hair brushes.
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay, then after you agitate it, then go ahead and rinse it.
Yes.
Okay, then after it's completely bone dry, it has to be 100% bone dry or the protection grease won't bond to the fibers. Is that the idea?
That's correct.
Okay. So now when I get ready to use this, is just use it kind of like a can of spray paint, just paint it on?
Very much like that. You maybe want to go
Should I go back and forth
overlapping
this
coats
way or
with
this
it.
way? Does it matter?
If you want to go maybe one direction, because the main thing you want to do, Mike, is seal any type of stitching, especially on the sides or around the back glass window. That's the heaviest piece on the top, and that's what's going to give, will be the stitching. Now that you've applied it, you've sealed it back to manufacturer's specs, and that stitching will last. It's always UV factors that always deteriorate a top. Or it could be harsh chemicals to clean it.
What about acid rain?
Acid rain's another,
Okay, now I got
Big
some on the
factor.
paint over there. Is this going to hurt the paint?
not at all. If you'll just wipe it up, you've of course got the perfect tool, the microfiber towel.
Oh, that wiped right off. What about the glass? I got a little bit here on the glass.
Just wipe it off too, it'll come right off.
Wow, it does wipe off easy. It won't hurt nothing.
No, not at all.
Just for the top though.
Just for the top.
Did I do a good job?
It looks great. In fact, you might want to let it sit for 10 or 15 minutes in the sun, or let it air dry, and then go back and do another coat the opposite direction. So you want to kind of overlap them.
So one
and
or two
that'll
coats
seal
is the
'em.
best.
Yes, exactly. But if the top, if you haven't used it in quite a while and the top is dry, it might take 3 good coats
Okay.
to really seal it. Mike, by the way, if you have vinyl convertible top, only use ragtop vinyl protectant with UV blockers.
Well, that's all we have for this edition. Join me next week. We're checking out more cool cars and garages across America.